My wife picked up this hand crank drill here for my 7-year-old son for his birthday. And she didn't know I had 4 or 5 others on the shelf, but that's fine. It's, I believe, a cast iron gear. These are some sort of low quality cast steel. I mean, the gear set's even painted. Now the problem with it was the way they hold it on. There is sort of like the handle's an E-clip. It's held in place with this screw. But the screw is drilled too far in, so the handle doesn't even set in the bottom of the E-clip there. And what it allows it to do is it allows this gear set to kick up. And so what that means is that when he's drilling, it'll start to skip teeth, which is darn inconvenient. Now, I don't know how much you can expect from a machine like this. I mean, it's not even name brand, but I can show you how to fix them, and this goes more or less for all the different versions. Right, so we take our handle off, and you can see the basically the E-clip, and you can see how bent up it already is. Now it should be way up in there, but you'll notice that the hole is nowhere close. The hole wants to be way down here, so it's basically only held on at this tip and at that tip. See? And then here's that gear, will come right off. But what I found is that a 1/4-inch washer would slip right over there, and then you can put this handle back on. You could also slot this screw hole, but what I was afraid would happen is that I'd end up with a wobbled out screw hole, and then it would be the next source of problems. Okay, and so what that does is it takes up almost all, come on now, where can I see it? Takes up almost all the slack out of that gear train by eating up that washer space. It also gives this a lot more bearing surface so that it can't wobble as much. You know, these gears are pinned in place, and this is all a cast iron hoop. At least I think it's cast iron, which means it's going to be relatively brittle. And the biggest problem with the actual practicality of this machine, of course, is you get an awful lot of side-to-side wobble. Let's compare it with a vintage one. So here's a vintage one that's been smashed, it's been dropped at some point, but when we compare its side-to-side wobble, it's a little less. So here's the difference between the two. See, this pin does not go all the way through. This pin just goes down into there, and you can see how long. You know, you've got 1.5 inches or so right there, whereas up here you have maybe 1 inch. Let's compare it to this one. And this one's actually got a lot less side-to-side play, though it is also an incredibly cheap machine. But you can see the difference in the gears here. Both of these gears have been machined. This one is actually very finely machined. What makes this one kind of fascinating is that this doesn't have an upper gear set for stabilization. So, it's pretty stiff too. So that's kind of a little different. And then you have this one here. And this one's the best of the three. And it does still wobble around a little. But it's really smooth, and again, cut gears. So if you end up with one of these, and I think it came from Amazon, and I'll put the link to what it is. Lord knows we didn't pay much of anything for it. These appear to be machine gears right here, these bottom ones. Didn't pay much for it, and doing that makes it work just fine compared to all the others. A little sloppier. I have no idea longevity, but functional nonetheless. There you go. Put that pin, or that washer rather, under that pin. It should be golden.